Can you hear me? I think you muted yourself. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. I'm using the hands-free today. Let's see how we go with that one. How was
Perfect.
your day? How was your day?
It was good. Thank you. Yeah. How was your day?
Good. Uneventful, which is always good. So, all right, just bear with me. I'll get the file ready. That's fine. We can try and squeeze today's session to 1 hour. It's not a problem at all. I'm in the process of buying a new computer. This is a MacBook, which I'm not very. Just stay with me. I'll try and share my screen with you. All right. Where is Agile? All right. So did you get an opportunity to have a look at some of the stakeholder files I've sent you?
Yes. Yes, I did. And
Oh,
the
good.
Agile.
All right. Do
I can
you have any?
well, sometimes it's better, sometimes not that good. But I hope it will be good. Let's see.
No, it'll be fine. It's just a matter of getting the logic right. It's not about it's not about how much you can remember. It's more about how much you can understand. So today's topic, of course, is about Agile. All right. So Agile basically it's the opposite of predictive or waterfall style of project management. So Agile is, as you can see, can you see my screen here?
Yes, I can.
In any project, there is triple constraints. Yeah. So you've got a time, you've got a scope, and you've got a cost. Yeah. So project is all about getting uh, meeting the objectives or project objectives or deliverables, they also call it, on time, on cost, within the scope as well. So three triangles. In traditional, you've got time and budget, and then features will build on top. In Agile, it's features first. So we'll discuss the product backlog, which is a list of activities or deliverables, if you like. They just name differently. It's the similar, but it's just a different way of doing things. Features first, and then you've got a variable time and budget. So it's basically, if you can see in this picture, it's basically breaking down the project into different chunks, right? So if it's predictive, you basically have your deliverables, you start the project, getting the charter signed, getting all the stakeholders on board, and start. So and then all the retrospective is done towards the end, what we did right. So instead in Agile, it's a mindset. So basically doing things in different pieces of work, right? They also call it the iterations, right? The iterations, they as opposed to a traditional one. So today's session is not about comparing both. It is about giving you an understanding, as you would have done in previous 3 to 4 sessions. You have a good understanding of what the project's like, what are the risks, what are the stakeholders, what scope do you play with, what sort of costs you've got involved, procurement, schedule, most important, which has to do with time. So basically doing things in different small chunks. So because life and business and markets are so unpredictable, they want to adapt at every single piece of information or activity, right? So who would have known 2 months ago that this whole Hormuz Strait being closed, oil prices crude tripling up, and you've got tripling up as well. But then Iran being involved, and we're in the verge of a third world war. No one's actually anticipated it, right? So Agile is basically anticipating things that are changing at every move and adapting to it. So basically, Agile is an Agile manifesto, right?
Yes.
Right. Basically, they're looking at individuals, people, over interactions. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. In a traditional one, you've got different processes. You've got, or as we discussed previously, the organizational process assets OPA. You've got a set template, set time, you get set cost as well. But this is about people. This is about stakeholders. Stakeholders, whether this is team, right? So first part of the manifesto, it's got 4 points, 4 rules, if you like, right? Working software over comprehensive documentation. They want to make sure the software that are using, whatever that software is, whether it's project management software, whether this is, a whole lot of different cloud-based softwares like Jira, Asana, Trello, Merlin as well in Macintosh world, and basically they want to make sure the software is working, it's functional over comprehensive documentation. So it's not about the project management, just the project management software. It's about in an environment where you're developing a software. So they want to make sure things are functional, right? So, all right, it's working so far. We're constructing a building, right? Whatever we build within the first week or whatever, however long the iteration is, typically another iteration is from, I think it's from 2 to 4 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks in an Agile, right? So they want to make sure whatever we build so far, it works, it's functional, right? So it's more about functionality and having the ball rolling on the pieces of work that we need to do. Third point, you've got a customer collaboration over contract negotiation. So instead of getting deep into contracts and documentation and 1,000 pages contract, you're collaborating more with your customers, right? You've got a category manager or a product owner, they call it in the Agile world as well. That's customer's voice, right? Everything customer needs you to do, it's done in a backlog. And any changes they want to do, they're allowed to do it. They have to just send the voice across through product owner. So basically 3 amigos, if you like. In any project, you've got project sponsor, you've got a product owner and development team. 3 amigos. That's what a triangle is all about, right? 4th point in the manifesto is responding to change over following a plan, right? For example, you've constructing a building in Dubai, for example, right? I'll keep on giving the example for building or construction because it's easier to understand. Who knows? There's a missile. There's a war the next day. What would you do, right? Have you planned for it? How would you adapt to it if there is a war? If there's a cluster bomb hitting your construction site, what would you do? So you're responding to change instead of just following a plan, right? Because you cannot add the contingencies to your plan. You can, you can anticipate it as well, but until it's realized, until the risk is until the issue is realized, it's not the risk. So we don't know, it may not happen. So basically 4 rules, yeah? Again, individuals over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. 4 key rules of Agile Manifesto.
Okay. Yeah,
does it make
clear.
sense at all?
Perfect.
All right. How are you feeling? Have you had your coffee yet? All right. You must have had a big day, but it's good that you are investing time into your studies. So then again, on top of the manifesto, you've got 12 Agile principles. We'll get more into detail, but they're all based on those 4 manifesto rules, right? Customer satisfaction, change is welcome. You deliver in boxes or iterations, right? And deliver it frequently, right? You've got sprint. Sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4, as it says in the document, in the chart over here. So in the traditional, we used to call them activities, but these ones are called sprints. But typical length of a sprint in Agile is from 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
All right. So 4 principles, I'll quickly run you through them. Satisfy the customer, welcome change, deliver frequently, work together as a team, trust and support, face-to-face conversation, and hang on, I'm just moving. Okay, face-to-face conversation, working software again, things that actually work. You're doing something that actually functions. Sustainable development, continuous attention, typical MBA stuff. Maintain simplicity, so keep it simple. Kanban board, will come to that as well. Self-organizing teams, so teams are responsible for organizing themselves, managing their own conflict until it gets out of hand. And this is where the project manager, or an Agile servant leader comes in and facilitates the resolution of that conflict. Reflect and adjust. So have you seen a football game or a rugby game where all the team comes in together in this format?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it creates that bonding, that gesture. Reflect, discuss the strategy, right? It creates that bonding. And then again, I think they do that in some FIFA games as well. All right, so quickly, the time boxing, right? As I said previously, things are done in time box. So you've got a fixed time of doing things, right? So if you've got a task or a deliverable in a project, it's all time boxed. And your continuous flow is prioritized, right? So you small steps to get results into the hands of the customer as quickly as possible. Focus on the important things first. Work still planned, but steps much smaller, right? Small baby steps, more achievable. Focus on important things first. You basically have a backlog, which is a list of things that you need to do, and you keep on refining that backlog. And refining means you keep on prioritizing things, right? So you're prioritizing what needs to be done first. Teams, again, as we discussed in the teams module, the teams could be cross-functional, across different areas, for example, co-located teams within the same office. Continuous feedback, fishbowl techniques, as we say, everyone is empowered and accountable for their own work. So if a piece of work is not done, project manager or service leader is not accountable. The team is responsible. And they've got to be accountable. They've got to answer why is it not done and what we can do to try and improve it. And that reduces the risk fairly early. For example, if you've got a sewerage system or the HVAC system wrong, or it's not done to the design that's previously planned, and you've gone through 10 floors in a building, right? You're not going to knock down those 10 floors and try and reconstruct it, right? So you do first floor, you see if it's done functional, then you move on to the second one, and then you move on to the third one, right, Marina? So that way your risk is reduced. So the risk to lose money or resources or cost, risk to lose time, right? That's reduced. So you can make corrections in time. Does it make sense so far?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. All right, so full-time assignment. All right, so what's that about? Oh, yeah, hang on, let me check the headings for that. Maybe it should be at the bottom. All right, Agile team concept, not very important, so I'm gonna skip to it. I'm gonna look at things from exams point of view. All right, so again, full-time teams, optimal size, 7 ± 2 members, so maximum of 9 members in an Agile team. They're self-organizing, all right? The journalists, they're not specialists, so they not T-shaped, they're I-shaped skills, right? So they can multitask. A data entry operator can also do some programming as well, or development. So co-located, ideally, empowered, right? And they're ready to embrace the change. Right?
One short quick.
Sorry, go on.
What's your experience about the optimal size for the team members? What's your experience?
Look, there could be more than one agile team, but it's per project one. In me running programs over the years, doing multiple project teams, but per one agile team per. But in program, you cannot, they specialize people. You cannot swap teams from one project to the other because all the teams are selected to silos. But let's be very honest, even though it's been 2 decades since Agile's been introduced, you still have people, they're still using hybrid. They're just floating in the middle. They don't want to give away all the predictive or waterfall. They are floating in the middle. Then they say they're transitioning into Agile, but again, it's the corporate, the capitalism. So basically, you've got a CEO. He wants to know everything. CEO is not going to be a servant leader, but they claim that they're running hybrid. So I reckon 70 to 80% of the companies globally, especially in Australia, they are getting the hybrid companies.
Mm-hmm.
Hybrid companies, yeah. So they're floating in the middle. They've adopted some good things from Agile, like backlog, refinement, agility, right? But again, I haven't seen many companies that are 100% Agile. No. Not even big companies like Toyota, for example, or even NVIDIA. NVIDIA is hybrid metric. So Agile Onion, this is Onion, basically. It's an onion chip starting from the top. It's a vision, roadmap, realization, iteration, which is a piece of work to deliver, and daily stand-up. Daily stand is very important, right? What we did yesterday, what we did today, are there any impediments? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Are there any impediments to work with? And the next morning, we'll start again for 15 minutes, and we'll do the daily stand-up again. That's the part of Agile. Agile planning, different releases. So yeah, you've got a release plan. Obviously, you've got a release 1, 2, and 3. And then under release plan, you've got different. A release plan is similar to work breakdown structure. They used to call it in predictive, but release plan now is named differently. And you're delivering in iteration 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, and then you time box it at the bottom. You say, okay, task A should take 5 hours. Task B should take 8 hours, right? 4 hours, 12 hours. If it's not done on time, so you go back, you move on to the next iteration and repeat what you've done, because you cannot do B until you've done A. You cannot do C until you've done B. Are you with me? Yeah, so that's your Agile planning, right? Not important, but again, this is a quick, typical MBA stuff. Scrum, that's my specialization for the Scrum Master certification. So basically, Scrum is someone who specializes into Agile concepts. You've got again, product backlog refining. You've got a sprint, which is 2 to 4 weeks, as I said to you earlier, right? And then you've got a Scrum meeting every 24 hours, or a daily stand-up meeting, whatever you want to call it, right? And then, but the PMP exam is not going to be huge on Scrum. It's not going to be huge on Scrum. So again, at the bottom, you've got a review, you've got a sprint review, right? And then you've got a sprint retrospective. So the piece of work we delivered one level at the building, one floor, right? We'll review what we've done. And then again, we do the retrospective each and every sprint at the completion of it. So what we did, it's more like a lesson learned, but it's named differently. So then you got a sprint review meeting, sprint retrospective meeting. We'll discuss later who needs to attend what meeting, right? So you basically inputs from, you got end users, you got customers, you got teams, and you got stakeholders. Scrum framework. You got a product backlog, it's an emergent ordered list of what needs to be improved. The product that includes the product goal, right? So Scrum framework, as I said to you, it's not big. but they've given some simple rules in Scrum. So we'll leave Scrum now, because that's another world right now. But from your exam point of view, Agile is important. Scrum, you've got 3 amigos, right? You've got 5 events, right? Scrum events, and you've got artifacts. The artifacts are basically the document. So hold your breath. We'll come back to Scrum. I just don't want to confuse you between Agile and Scrum because you're transitioning from predictive. We'll come back to Scrum later, right? Then again, you've got Scrum team, product owners, Scrum master, product backlog. Do you have any questions so far? I know it's a totally different world, right? It's a totally different world, but trust me, it's worth it.
It's clear.
These are all the artifacts. These are all the artifacts. So you got product backlog, as I said, you got sprint backlog, sprint, what we did, what's left out of that sprint so that can be moved to the next sprint. All right, so we've got a product backlog. That's a list of things that we need to deliver throughout the project. Got a burn down chart. Burn down chart it's a chart. Maybe I know your time is limited. So we'll go through that. So I'm going to have to use the whiteboard to try and draw the burn down and burn up charts for you to give you a better understanding of how the Scrum works, right? But I'm going to skip Scrum for now, just for you. Then again, Scrum team, or similar to Agile team, you've got a development team, product owners, and a team facilitator. This guy is a project manager. So its role is a servant leader. You don't have any powers to make decisions in Agile. So you're basically a facilitator. Mm-hmm. This role may be called a project manager. So adapting to Agile means people who like to run things in a corporate sector in an autocrat way, they're giving away their powers. Who wants to give away their power? But it's a concept, and it's adapted and we'll look at some statistics as to how many companies have completely adapted to Agile later. But again, you project manager, your facilitator could be a project manager, Scrum master, project team lead, team coach, or team facilitator. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. User story and definition of done. User story is to capture a description of a software features from an end user's perspective. User story is basically, it's a feature. So for example, Agile is mostly used in software development, in IT sector. Mm-hmm. A lot of the teams are Agile. They specialize in what they do. They're not multi-shaped. They're not T-shaped. They're I-shaped teams, and they specialize in. For example, you've got a program is a hardcore program. You've got an AI data analyst is a hardcore data analyst, right? So it's a software feature from end user's perspective, right? So remember that inverted triangle?
Mm-hmm.
Back then?
The beginning.
Inverted triangle at the beginning. You got to feature first, right? You got to make sure things work first before you go, and then you time and budget is not fixed. Again, you've got features. You got to make sure the project you're spending money on that actually has functional features. Remember? So I hope it's starting to make sense now. It has to be from end user's perspective. The user of the software, for example, it has to tell you, yes, it works so far. For example, you putting a macro button in Excel, and then you're doing a whole lot of other checkboxes and other programming as well. But you got to make sure that button works first before you move on to the checkboxes, right? Definition of done. All right, done means releasable. All right, what's hot nowadays? Missiles and rockets, right? Okay. A missile contains a whole lot of electronics, fuel, right? Booster engine, warhead, right? First of all, you got to make sure it gets off the ground first, right? Then it's another story whether you can install a warhead on that as well. What's this built for? Can that do the job? Whether if it's a small, releasable, they call a prototype. For example, you're building a jet plane, fighter jet, right? F-35 Joint Strike Fighter underlined, right? It's got the ability to carry about, I think if I'm not wrong, about 35,000 pounds of payload. It's got its radar, reflective, it's got IR, it's got 360-degree view. It can take off vertically. It's got 4 different prototypes for Army, Navy, and the Air Force and Marines. So basically, as an aircraft, what is it supposed to do first? Take off the ground. It's a jet plane. And then if it's radar scanning, it's providing information to the other vehicles. It's a different story, right? It needs to get off the ground first. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has to be the minimum possible. This also will study minimum viable product later. So you're creating a prototype, you're going to the government to say, hey, here's a jet plane. We haven't added other features to it, but it gets off the ground. It does the job. Can we have the funding? And then the government's going to go, okay, you got the prototype, right? With the F-35, so when they started building it 20 years ago, the contract, they gave $1 billion each to Boeing and Lockheed Martin both. And they said, build us a prototype that takes up vertically, it carries this. And then, do you know why Boeing failed and Lockheed Martin didn't?
Why?
Tell me why. Why? Because it had a feature, the basic feature for it to take off vertically off the ground and then get up in the sky, it was not suitable for concrete. So if you're landing it on concrete, not on a metal surface, not on the dust or mud or a playground, on a concrete, it repelled and lost balance. That's the Boeing prototype. That's why Boeing didn't get the contract, Lockheed Martin did. And that's a multi-trillion-dollar project, F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. See? Basic feature. A definition of done, right? The very basic functionality of a product. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, good. Let's move on. The team velocity. All right, the team velocity, as the name suggests, the velocity is a measure of the amount of work the team can tackle during a single sprint. Sprint, again, is the time duration given to you to complete the work, right? And it's a velocity on how quickly a team is delivering the work, right? So you got a product backlog. This is a list of things that we need to do. Team comes in, they pull their desired number of stories into the current sprint. So a team members come in and said, okay, we'll take programming. Okay, we'll also take 2 pieces of testing. Right? We'll take number 3. It could be any task, right? It could be, right? It could be the integration into the existing system, right? They pick up time, pick up the task, that becomes a sprint backlog. So that's in the sprint, there's a product backlog at a macro level, and there's a sprint backlog. There could be multiple sprint backlogs throughout the project, right? Throughout product development, for example. So estimated velocity, 26 points. So you just add the sprint numbers or number of deliverables or activities, and 8 plus 5 plus 5 plus 3 plus 5 is 26. That's the velocity.
Mm-hmm.
See? That's the velocity of a team delivering the job. Very simple mathematics. 2 plus 2, 4. All right. Important terminologies to remember in Agile or Scrum. You've got sprint, you've got sprint planning. Sprint, obviously, 2 to 4 weeks. Sprint planning, that's generally a meeting around daily Scrum meeting, 15 minutes daily stand-up meeting. It's also called daily Scrum. Then sprint review, right? What we did, and retrospective, right? What we did right, what we did wrong, and what we can learn from moving on to the next sprint, right? What we need to carry forward. Are you with me? Makes sense?
Yes.
When we dig deeper, but these are the four events in Agile or Scrum that you need to remember. All right. So Scrum ceremonies, obviously, we discussed it, backlog refinement. So you basically prioritize the product backlog and you keep on refining it. You could be bringing 3 to the top, 8 to bottom, keep on refining it. And this is done by the product owner, right? Sprint planning meeting, daily scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective. So, are you holding so far? Good?
Good. Thank you.
Same stuff, daily stand-ups, short 10 to 15 minutes daily meetings to the team, reaffirm commitment objectives, that's typical stuff, right? So we discussed these ceremonies earlier. Iteration planning is a collaborative agile ceremony that's sometimes called sprint planning. Sprint is the same as an iteration, as I said to you earlier. It's a piece of work that needs to be done. All right, so customer's representative, customer's voice is basically the product owner, right? So after the agreement, the team determines what they need to do, what activities they need to pick and select, and they're required to deliver the iteration object. Right? Product backlog assessment, right? Work that needs to be done, also called product backlog, use backlog assessment. I know it's getting a bit loose and boring, but this is Agile, and a major part of a PMP exam is Agile. PMI really want you to, as an organization, they want you to move into Agile. That's why they've got a daily stand-up. We discussed it. Again, who needs to attend? So designated time, obviously the ground rules or the team rules. Team ground rules, they apply to it during the meeting. What has been done since the last meeting, which was yesterday? What needs to be done before the next meeting? What we need to do today? And what does anyone need help with? Are there any roadblocks or impediments that we need to work on? See, that's your daily stand-up. And you could be doing it virtually. You could be doing in a co-located team setup and all that.
Daily stand-up, the Scrum meeting. How long do they last usually? Half an hour? Or it doesn't?
But daily stand-up, 15 minutes. No more, not a minute more than 15 minutes.
Okay.
Daily stand-up means, right? Task boards, again, it's like a Kanban board. We'll come to that in Agile. They use Kanban. It's a very big visualized board with different pieces of tasks and sprints that teams need to pick up and then create a sprint backlog for themselves. This is a Kanban board, right? Kanban board is looks a bit like this, right? It could be, they're doing digital Kanban boards as well, but it's very simple, full of colors. So you've got user stories, different user stories, the user stories in progress, already 2 and 3, and then you've got a backlog. After 2 and 3, you need to do 4, 5, 6, and 7. You get development part, and then who needs to do what, and it's a very simple reflection of the tasks and sprints and activities, for example. Very simple reflection. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Retrospective, again, it's a regular check on the effectiveness of quality process, looking for the root cause of the issues, All right. Structured, again, it's another kind of retrospective. I think that meeting time's running out, so we still got 5 minutes, right? So we can cover a few more slides here. Do you have any questions so far in this one, Marina?
So far, so good. Thank you.
So far, so good. All right, that's good to know. All right, so structured retrospective, again, first step, set the stage, gather the data, generate insights. That again, it's the expert opinion you get from the project experts. What's working could be the team giving you the insight on what's working, where are the challenges and roadblocks, and the problem analysis as well. Then again, you agree on a few improvements every sprint, and that is your sprint review meeting. This is where you make decisions. And then the close, the new information, appreciation, and just shut shop, move on. All right, we discussed that, product backlog, iteration, user stories. We discussed it, short descriptions. If you define it, short description of required functionality told from the user's point of view. That means short, small description of your of the functionality. Okay. For example, you know, you've done the first part, which is the coding for a software being initiated in the system, right? So you've done the lines of code, short description, all right? So you can call it a product boot or software boot, right? There could be a whole lot of programming behind it as well. But if you were to define that part of user story, you could just say product boot. And then you got launch, you know, they have different names for it. And then you start doing stuff within that software, right? Different functionality. You keep on, for example, you doing analyzing data as well. And then there are different sprints and different user stories underneath that. Each and every functionality has a different user story. Okay, so user story template, not important. Prioritization techniques to determine Moscow. Right, these methodologies that we need to learn under Agile, I discussed it with you, Moscow, right? So must have, should have, could have, would have. That's called Moscow. Ignore the O's in between, just to make it more understandable. They've just added, they just named it against the city in Russia, Russian capital. Product backlog, again, as the name suggests as well, product backlog, a very macro level backlog that breaks it down to the sprint backlog and then ultimately the activities and deliverables. Kano model, we'll discuss it. Pay comparison and 100 points method. Not very pay comparison. We'll discuss it as well. This is also called pay programming. Kano model, we'll discuss it later. So Moscow, as I said, so these 5 terms, very important for you to know, especially the first 3 from the exam perspective. Moscow again, DSDM community, DSDM is very deep. It's a very deep specialization, disciplined Scrum Master. This is disciplined Scrum Master certification, that's very advanced level of Scrum Master certification. I am studying for, hopefully. There's a lot of jobs out there for Scrum Masters. If you look it up, if you go on any job board or LinkedIn, you type in Scrum Master, all right, and we have thousands of jobs, if not hundreds. All right, so again, Moscow, must have, should have for any project, the things, whether it's a team, it's a skill, it's the resources, it's a must have, should have, could have, would have, or would like to have, right? The time box 1 is a must, time box 2, so they've basically, the time box is a piece of packet of work that needs to be, that's being contained in different times. Take it an example of a cube where you have packed all the activities that you need to do in a project and time boxed it, right? So I'll give you 5 hours to do it. We previously discussed it. 5 hours for 1 sprint iteration is called time boxing. So basically you allocate a fixed time to it. If you don't complete it, all right, so you go back and do it again. All right, so ideal time, again, assigned to a single task, no interruptions, everything needed is available. So yeah, affinity diagram. T-shirt sizing. Did you see some of those videos I've sent you?